June 6, 1944. Before dawn. The English Channel was restless that morning. Not violent, not calm, just heavy, as if the sea itself understood what was about to happen. Across the dark horizon stretched an armada unlike anything humanity had ever assembled. Over 5,000 ships, battleships, destroyers, landing craft, transports, minesweepers, an entire floating city of war. Inside those ships were boys pretending to be soldiers. Some were 19, some barely 18. A few had lied about their age. They were seasick, silent, pale. Some checked their rifles again and again. Some held photographs. Some whispered prayers they had not spoken since childhood. In a few minutes, steel ramps would fall, and history would split in two. This was Operation Overlord, the largest amphibious invasion ever attempted, the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany, and for thousands of men, the beginning of the end of their lives. By 1944, the Second World War had already consumed continents. In the East, the Soviet Union had absorbed unimaginable punishment. Entire cities had been erased, millions were dead. The Red Army had stopped the German advance at Stalingrad and broken its momentum at Kursk. But the war was far from over. Stalin demanded a second front in Western Europe. Without it, Germany could continue concentrating forces against the Soviets. The Western Allies knew he was right. If Europe was to be liberated, someone had to cross the Channel. But Hitler had spent years preparing for exactly that moment. The Atlantic Wall stretched from Norway to Spain. Concrete bunkers embedded into cliffs. Artillery hidden behind reinforced casemates. Beaches seeded with mines. Steel obstacles designed to rip apart landing craft at low tide. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel had inspected the defenses personally. He understood something crucial. If the Allies gained a foothold, Germany would not be able to push them back. The first 24 hours will be decisive, he warned. If we fail to stop them on the beaches, the war is lost. Rommel was not exaggerating. The Allies needed surprise. They created one of the most sophisticated deception operations in military history, Operation Bodyguard. Fake armies were invented. Inflatable tanks placed in fields. Wooden aircraft positioned in dummy airfields. Radio operators transmitted endless false signals suggesting an invasion at Pas-de-Calais. General George Patton was assigned to command a phantom force that did not exist. German intelligence took the bait. Even as thousands of ships prepared for Normandy, Hitler remained convinced the real attack would come elsewhere. And then the weather intervened. Originally scheduled for June 5th, the invasion was delayed due to storms. Rough seas threatened disaster. Paratroopers could be scattered. Landing craft could capsize. General Dwight D. Eisenhower faced the most difficult decision of his life. Delay again and risk losing secrecy, or proceed into uncertain conditions. He chose to go. "If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt," he wrote in a prepared statement, "it is mine alone." It was a sentence written in case the invasion failed. On the night of June 5th, before the beaches were assaulted, the sky above Normandy filled with aircraft. More than 13,000 American paratroopers from the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions were dropped behind enemy lines. But nothing went according to plan. Heavy cloud cover, anti-aircraft fire, confusion in the darkness. Many paratroopers landed miles from their intended drop zones. Units were fragmented. Soldiers found themselves alone in hedgerows, in flooded fields, in the middle of German patrol routes. Some drowned in marshlands weighed down by their equipment. Some were shot before they could unclip their harnesses. Yet in that chaos, something unexpected happened. Small groups formed spontaneously. Officers and privates mixed together. Rank mattered less than survival. They blew up bridges. They ambushed convoys. They cut communication lines. German commanders struggled to understand what was happening. Was this the main invasion? A diversion? How many troops had landed? Confusion became a weapon. Then came the naval bombardment. As dawn approached, Allied warships opened fire. The sound was overwhelming. Artillery shells screamed across the sky. The coastline erupted in smoke and debris, but many German bunkers survived. Bombardment had been shortened to preserve surprise. Targets were obscured by mist. Some shells missed entirely. And now the landing craft were approaching. 5 beaches: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, Sword. At Utah Beach, American troops were carried off course by strong currents. Ironically, this mistake placed them in a sector with lighter German defenses. Casualties were far lower than expected. The beachhead was secured relatively quickly. British and Canadian forces at Gold, Juneau, and Sword faced fierce resistance, but gradually pushed inland. But at Omaha Beach, everything unraveled. Omaha was defended by experienced German troops positioned on high bluffs overlooking the shoreline. Machine gun nests had clear fields of fire. Artillery was pre-sighted. As the ramps dropped, men stepped directly into gunfire. Some were killed before they touched water. Others drowned when the weight of their packs dragged them under. Amphibious tanks designed to support the assault sank in rough seas before reaching shore. The beach became a killing zone. Bullets tore through the surf. Explosions sent sand and metal into the air. Medics crawled from body to body under fire. Officers fell. Radio operators were cut down. Within minutes, entire platoons ceased to exist. Men hid behind obstacles, behind corpses, behind anything that offered even the illusion of protection. Some froze, some screamed, some kept moving because standing still meant certain death. For a time, the invasion at Omaha hung on the edge of collapse. There were serious discussions among naval commanders about withdrawing. But small units began to move, not because they received orders, not because they were certain of success, but because staying where they were guaranteed failure. Groups of soldiers scaled the bluffs using craters and natural cover. They flanked German positions. They attacked from unexpected angles. Individual acts of initiative broke the defensive network piece by piece. Meanwhile, on the German side, a critical delay unfolded. Panzer divisions were available to counterattack, but they required Adolf Hitler's personal authorization. And Hitler was asleep. His generals hesitated to wake him. By the time permission was granted, the Allies had secured fragile footholds. Air superiority compounded the German dilemma. Allied aircraft dominated the skies. Reinforcements attempting to move toward Normandy were bombed relentlessly. Bridges and roads were destroyed. German units moved slowly, cautiously, under constant threat from above. By the end of June 6th, approximately 156,000 Allied troops had landed in Normandy. The cost was immense. Roughly 10,000 Allied casualties on the first day. Thousands more German soldiers killed or wounded. The beaches were littered with bodies, equipment, shattered landing craft. But the foothold held. The first 24 hours had passed. Rommel's prediction proved true. Germany could not throw them back into the sea. The battle for Normandy, however, was far from over. The Bocage countryside, dense hedgerows dividing small fields, favored defenders. Every field became a miniature fortress. Progress inland was slow and costly. Weeks of brutal fighting followed. Towns were reduced to rubble. Civilians were caught in crossfire. Entire German units were encircled in the Falaise Pocket and destroyed. By August 1944, Paris was liberated. The Western Front was fully opened. Germany was now trapped between two unstoppable forces, the Soviet advance from the east and the Anglo-American advance from the west. Normandy did not end the war that day, but it sealed its outcome. Without Normandy, the war in Europe could have lasted far longer. The Soviets might have advanced deeper into Western Europe. The political map of the post-war world might look entirely different. Normandy shaped the balance of power that defined the Cold War. It cemented the United States as a permanent military presence in Europe. It accelerated the collapse of Nazi Germany. But beyond strategy, beyond geopolitics, beyond maps and conferences, Normandy was something else. It was thousands of individual human experiences compressed into a single day. A 19-year-old from Kansas stepping into freezing water under gunfire. A German conscript in a bunker watching silhouettes emerge through smoke. A French civilian hiding in a cellar, unsure who would control their town by nightfall. War at that scale becomes abstract in textbooks. But on the beaches, it was painfully personal. Today, Normandy is quiet. The sea moves gently. The sand is clean. Memorials stand where men once fell. Tourists visit cemeteries filled with white crosses and stars of David stretching in perfect rows. Each marker represents a life interrupted, a future erased. Normandy is remembered as a triumph. And strategically, it was. But it was also terror, confusion, loss. It was young men walking forward because retreat was impossible. It was commanders making decisions that would determine whether thousands lived or died. It was history balanced on hesitation, weather, deception, and human will. June 6, 1944. The longest day. The day the ramps dropped. The day Europe began to breathe again. And the day thousands never saw another sunrise. War is often remembered in victories, but it is lived in moments of fear. And on the shores of Normandy, fear and courage existed side by side. That is the legacy of D-Day. Not just the strategy, not just the success, but the cost, and the reminder that history can turn in a matter of hours. When ordinary people are pushed into extraordinary darkness. Thank you for my watch.